And when everyone's super, no one will be.
Imagine this. You've got the power to be a hero, the tech, the smarts, the vision to make the world a better place. But there's just one tiny problem. You weren't born special. No laser eyes, no super strength, nothing. And you don't just dislike it. No, you despise it. You're locked out of the superhero club. A world built for the naturally gifted tells you that you'll never belong. Well, screw that. If destiny won't hand you a cape, you'll steal one and make it look better. Because if they won't let you in, you make your own club by eliminating the competition. Meet Syndrome, the rejected fanboy turned megalomaniac mastermind, the man who wanted to make everyone super by first making sure no one was. But the real question is, what if he had won? Would Syndrome's world be a paradise of fairness or a dystopia where power isn't earned, it's bought? Well, strap in because we're diving into a world where Syndrome is king.
Tore me apart. But I learned an important lesson. You can't count on anyone.
Let's rewind a little. The year 1990s something. A young, bright-eyed Buddy Pine meets his idol, Mr. Incredible. And in his mind, this is it. The start of an epic mentor-sidekick duo. The Batman and Robin of Metroville. And what does he get for his efforts? A hard pass. No love, no respect, just a polite, no thanks kid, before being dismissed faster than a spam email. Yeah, that's gonna leave a mark. But here's the thing, Buddy doesn't sulk. He doesn't mope, binge watch sad rom-coms, or draft a 3,000-word Reddit manifesto on superhero privilege. Oh no, he gets obsessed.
Surprising. We must bring him back. Sound the all clear, and
Buddy starts watching, learning. If superheroes are born special, what if he could build special? And in that moment, Buddy Pine dies, and Syndrome is born. Instead of whining about the injustice, Buddy builds himself a lair on a volcanic island. He equips himself with cutting-edge tech and starts crafting an army of killer robots, omnidroids, machines designed to do just one thing: annihilate. But here's the twist. It's never been about just defeating superheroes. Oh no, it's about making them irrelevant. Syndrome's vision isn't just about taking down the supers. It's about replacing them with anyone who can wield the power of technology. Because in Syndrome's world, when everyone's super, no one will be. And once the capes are gone, who's left to stop him? If Syndrome had won, imagine the world he would have built. No superheroes, no masked vigilantes swinging in at the last second, no impossible feats of strength, no daring rescues, no one to defy fate when all hope seemed lost. Sounds like chaos, right? Crime running rampant, cities in ruins, civilization teetering on the edge. But no, actually, it wouldn't. Because Syndrome wasn't just eliminating heroes, he was replacing them. Picture it, a world no longer saved by flesh and blood, but by machines, his machines. Automated, efficient, unstoppable. Crime neutralized before it could even begin. Fires extinguished in seconds. Peril calculated, predicted, eliminated. No more waiting for some caped savior to show up. No more chances. No more uncertainty. Just cold, calculated perfection. Syndrome always wanted to be a hero. That was the dream, wasn't it? A bright-eyed boy who idolized Mr. Incredible, desperate to be special. But instead, he got humiliated, discarded, abandoned. So he stopped trying to be a hero, and he decided to own heroism instead. If the world wouldn't let him stand among the greats, he'd rig the game until he was the only one left. Maybe at first he'd keep playing pretend, unleash a few threats, swoop in for the grand rescue, bask in the cheers, the admiration, the power. But how long would that last? How long before someone started asking questions? Before the public noticed the pattern? Before he got bored? Would he have kept manufacturing chaos just to stay relevant? Or would he have pivoted? What if, after eliminating every rival, Syndrome actually became a real hero? Not because he was noble, not because he cared, but because when you're the last one standing between order and chaos, don't you eventually become what you once pretended to be? Let's say it worked. Syndrome defeated the Incredibles, claimed his victory, and unleashed his perfect system on the world. No more supers, no more capes, no more last-second white-knuckle rescues that make you believe in miracles. And you know what? The world wouldn't have crumbled into chaos. No, that would have been too easy. Syndrome wasn't just taking down heroes, he was replacing them. And how? By making sure no one needed them in the first place. Imagine this: no super strength, no problem. No flight, who cares? With Syndrome's technology, everyone could be their own hero. Jetpacks, laser blasters, robot bodyguards, you name it. He wasn't eliminating heroism. He was mass-producing it like discount Halloween costumes. At first, people would have eaten it up. No more danger, no more uncertainty. Crime? Neutralized before it even began. Fires? Extinguished before you even smelled smoke. No more fear, no more struggle. But also, no more stakes. No more triumph. No more real heroes. Because, let's be honest, if you can press a button to save the day, does it even count? Where's the heart, the sacrifice, the guts? It's like replacing firefighters with self-extinguishing buildings. Effective, sure, but inspiring, not so much. Now, Syndrome thought this was genius. Finally, everyone could be special. But here's the irony: when everyone is super, no one is. And that's when the cracks would start to show. At first, people would love their shiny new hero gadgets, but soon they'd get bored. Why? Because without struggle, there's no meaning. Without risk, there's no real victory. You think people would just accept a life where everything is predictable? Where nothing exciting ever happens? Nah, they'd start testing limits, finding ways to break the system. And that is where Syndrome's so-called perfect world would start crumbling. And the worst part, he would even see it coming. Because Syndrome's game was never really about saving people. It was about controlling them. And when control is your end goal, the next step isn't heroism, it's tyranny. His machines wouldn't just stop crime, they'd predict it. Preemptive justice, thought policing. At first, it'd be subtle, a few extra precautions here, some necessary restrictions there. Then suddenly, bam, you're living in a world where robots decide who's a threat. Not just criminals, not just villains, but anyone who doesn't fit the program. Dissenters, critics, freethinkers. A world where no one ever has to fear for their lives, but no one ever truly lives either. So Syndrome succeeds. In his own mind, he's won. He's built a world free of supers, a world that's automated, predictable, perfect. But here's the question: would anyone actually want to live in it? At first, maybe, but soon the people would start to realize a world without real heroes isn't peaceful. It's lifeless. And when that moment comes, when the illusion shatters, what happens next? Would they accept their hollow, perfect cage, or would they fight back? And if they did, would Syndrome become the villain he claimed to be protecting them from? Or worse, would he finally become what he always wanted? A real hero? But not out of choice, out of necessity. Because when you're the last one standing between order and chaos, you have to be. No, that doesn't sound quite right, does it?
Who's super now?
Syndrome's greatest weakness, his ego, and not the I'm better than you kind of ego. No, this guy had a full-blown, gold-plated, supervillain-sized god complex. He genuinely thought he could just waltz in, replace every super in existence, and run the world like it was his personal theme park. Yeah, as if anyone would want to live in his version of Disneyland. But here's the kicker about arrogance. When you're too busy thinking you're untouchable, you tend to miss one tiny, inconvenient truth. Humans. You know, the people with, like, emotions and actual connections? Yeah, those ones. Turns out you can't just replace your heart with tech, no matter how many robots you have on your side.
Huh? No!
Syndrome had it all. Cutting-edge gadgets, an army of robots, and plans that stretched for miles. But there was one thing he never saw coming. Something no amount of tech could replicate. The power of human connection. Sure, machines can move fast and hit hard, but they can't love. They can't be loyal, and they sure as heck can't make the sacrifices that real people do. The Incredibles weren't just a team, they were a family, and that bond, unbreakable. Syndrome thought he could outwit it all. He thought he could control everything, including the thing that makes humans tick, the ties that bind them together. But when it came down to the wire, it was those messy, unpredictable emotions, love, loyalty, and justice, that gave the Incredibles the edge. Syndrome didn't get that. He thought machines could replace it all. But in the end, he was left with something cold and calculated. Robots without heart. A world without warmth. Machines are efficient, sure, but they can't fight for something bigger than themselves. So was Syndrome as brilliant as he thought, or just another guy who didn't understand what really matters? Syndrome wanted a perfect world, but perfection? It's got nothing on heart. At the core of what makes heroes isn't just their strength, it's their heart. And Syndrome, well, that memo must have gotten lost in the mail. Sure, he could build a robot army. Sure, he could play the part of a hero in his own twisted way. But the Incredibles, they didn't need to pretend. What made them real was the love they shared and the sacrifices they were willing to make for each other. The world Syndrome wanted to create? Perfect in every mechanical sense, but hollow in every way that mattered. So what would happen if Syndrome won? Well, eventually he'd have nothing left to conquer. He'd rule over a world where no one laughed, no one fought for something bigger than themselves, where everything was predictable. And here's the thing about absolute control. It gets real boring real fast. Even with all the power in the world, he'd find himself alone in a sea of machines, because no one wants a world where everyone is special. That's just a fancy way of saying no one is. And in the end, Syndrome's biggest mistake wasn't underestimating the Incredibles. It was thinking people would ever cheer for a world without heart.
Oh no.
Syndrome's end was, well, let's just say, not the grand victory he envisioned. But let's rewind for a second. What if it had played out differently? What if instead of being defeated by the Incredibles, he actually pulled it off? If the world had really embraced his version of heroes, would it have been enough for him? Because here's the thing, no matter how many robots he built, no matter how many people he made feel special, there was one thing Syndrome could never replace: the heart of what makes a hero.
And happiness! Soon all will tremble before me!
Let's be real, Syndrome's world would have been flawless, in the most lifeless way possible. No crime, no chaos, no surprises, just efficiency. But you know what else? No joy, no love, no purpose. A world ruled by tech, with no heart or humanity? Sounds more like a dystopian nightmare than a victory parade. The Incredibles understood something Syndrome never did. Power doesn't just come from gadgets. It comes from people. Real, flawed, unpredictable people. And no matter how genius your plan is, you can't outcode human connection. So here's the real question. If Syndrome had won, would he have figured it out? Would he have realized too late that absolute control is just another kind of prison? Or would his empire have crumbled under the weight of his own loneliness? Tell me what you think. Would Syndrome have ever seen the truth, or was he doomed from the start? I'd also love to hear what you think about how Syndrome's world would have been. Let me know. Maybe I'll make a video about it and give you a shout.